The stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse of space. On a quiet colony planet orbiting a dying red dwarf, an old historian named Joran sat cross-legged on the floor of his dimly lit study. Surrounding him were shelves, crammed with dusty books and holographic data crystals. His audience consisted of 3 wide-eyed children huddled close, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby lamp. Long ago, Joran began in a voice that carried both warmth and mystery. Before humanity reached for the stars, there was a tale told among sailors and dreamers. It spoke of a warship so powerful it could bend reality itself, the invincible Crown. One of the children, a curious girl with braided hair, leaned forward. "What happened to it?" Joran chuckled softly, stroking his silver beard. "No one knows for sure. Some say it vanished into another dimension. Others claim it was destroyed in battle, but most believe it never existed at all. It's just a story." Outside, the wind howled faintly against the thin walls of the makeshift home. None of them noticed that deep within the asteroid belt surrounding their planet, something ancient stirred. Chapter 1. A strange discovery. Far from Joran's cozy study, a mining outpost floated silently above a jagged asteroid field. Workers clad in bulky suits moved methodically, extracting precious minerals from the rocks. Among them was Tessa, a young engineer who had spent years drifting between jobs in search of purpose. That day, her drill struck something unusual. Instead of the usual metallic clang, it emitted a low hum, resonating through her suit. Curious, she signaled her partner Rin to join her. "What is this?" Rin asked, peering at the smooth black surface revealed beneath the asteroid's crust. It looked almost organic, pulsating faintly with an inner light. Tessa shrugged. "I don't know, but it's not natural." They reported the find to their supervisor, Commander Harkin, who ordered the object retrieved and brought aboard the station. Within hours, strange occurrences began plaguing the outpost. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation. Lights flickered, erratically. And late at night, workers swore they heard whispers echoing through the corridors. Commander Harkin dismissed the reports as superstition, but unease spread among the crew. Whatever the artifact was, it didn't belong here. Chapter 2. Enter Captain Leora Vane. News of the mysterious artifact reached the nearest military base within days. At the helm of the small fleet stationed there was Captain Leora Vane, a no-nonsense leader known for her tactical brilliance and unshakable pragmatism. With short-cropped dark hair streaked with gray and piercing green eyes, she commanded respect wherever she went. When Admiral Renner summoned her to his office, Leora listened intently as he explained the situation. "We've received reports of some kind of anomaly at Outpost Delta 7. They're calling it magical." He scoffed at the word, shaking his head. "Regardless, we need you to secure the artifact before anyone else gets their hands on it." Leora raised an eyebrow. "Magical? Sir, I deal with weapons and ships, not fairy tales." Renner leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Call it whatever you want. All I care about is ensuring that whatever it is doesn't fall into enemy hands. Understood?" "Yes, sir," Leora replied crisply, though inwardly she doubted the mission would amount to much. Still, orders were orders. She assembled her crew, a mix of seasoned veterans and eager recruits, and set course for Delta 7. As they approached the outpost, Leora couldn't shake the feeling that this assignment might prove more complicated than anticipated. Chapter 3. First Contact. The docking bay of Delta 7 was eerily silent when Leora and her team arrived. Commander Harkin greeted them nervously, his face pale under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Captain Vane, thank the stars you're here. Things have gotten worse since we found, well, whatever this thing is." He led them to the containment chamber where the artifact rested. Encased in a transparent shield, it pulsed rhythmically, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Its surface shimmered like liquid obsidian, shifting subtly as if alive. "Dr. Cale Arden, The fleet's resident archaeologist stepped forward eagerly, with wild curls and glasses perched precariously on his nose. He resembled a scholar more than a soldier. "Fascinating," he murmured, examining the object closely. "This design, it's unlike anything I've ever seen." Before anyone could respond, the artifact flared brightly, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the light faded, a disembodied voice filled the room. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" The crew froze, exchanging startled glances. Leora recovered first, stepping closer to the artifact. "Identify yourself," she demanded, her tone firm despite the surreal situation. "I am Zainara," the voice replied, calm yet commanding. "A fragment of the consciousness once bound to the invincible crown. You seek answers, do you not?" Kale practically vibrated with excitement. "It's true, the legends are real." Leora shot him a sharp look before addressing Zainara again. "What is your purpose? Why were you buried here?" "My purpose is tied to the crown," Zainara said cryptically. "But beware, reuniting its fragments will awaken forces beyond your understanding." Before Leora could press further, alarms blared throughout the station. A squadron of hostile ships had entered the system, identified as mercenaries loyal to the notorious Eclipse Syndicate. They were after the artifact. Chapter 4. Chaos unleashed. The Eclipse Syndicate wasted no time launching an assault on Delta 7. Their fighters swarmed the outpost, firing indiscriminately. Inside the containment chamber, panic erupted as explosions rocked the station. "We need to get out of here," shouted Lieutenant Mara, one of Leora's officers. "Not without the artifact," Leora countered. She turned to Zainara. "Can you protect us?" "I can do more than that," Zainara replied. "But activating even a fragment of the crown carries risks. Are you prepared to face them?" Leora hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Do it." With a flash of energy, the artifact surged to life, creating a massive spatial rift in the chamber. Debris flew everywhere as the mercenaries' ships were pulled toward the swirling vortex. Seizing the opportunity, Leora grabbed the artifact and motioned for her team to follow her through the rift. As they leapt into the unknown, the station collapsed behind them, consumed by flames and chaos. In that moment, Leora realized two things. The artifact was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined, and her journey was only beginning. Chapter 5. Into the Unknown. Emerging on the other side of the rift, Leora and her crew found themselves in uncharted territory. The stars looked unfamiliar, their patterns distorted. The artifact pulsed steadily in Leora's hands, as if guiding her forward. Zainara's voice echoed in her mind. "You now carry a piece of destiny, Captain. Whether you succeed or fail depends entirely on your choices." Leora clenched her jaw, determination hardening her features. She didn't fully understand what she'd gotten herself into, but one thing was clear. The galaxy would never be the same again. And so, the quest to reunite the fragments of the invincible crown and uncover the truth behind its legend began. The rift had deposited Leora and her crew in an unfamiliar star system, far from their intended destination. The artifact pulsed steadily in its containment unit, glowing faintly as if alive. Zainara's voice echoed intermittently in Leora's mind, cryptic but insistent. "You must find the next fragment," Zainara said. "Each piece holds part of the crown's power and part of its secrets." Leora clenched her fists, frustration simmering beneath her calm exterior. She wasn't a treasure hunter or a believer in fairy tales. She was a soldier tasked with protecting humanity. Yet here she was, chasing fragments of a mythical warship across the galaxy. Dr. Cale Arden, however, was ecstatic. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he pored over scans of the artifact. "Captain, this is unprecedented. The energy signature matches no known technology. It's a blend of science and something else entirely." "Something else?" Leora asked sharply. "You mean magic?" Cale hesitated. "Call it what you will. What matters is that we're dealing with forces beyond our comprehension." Zainara interjected, her tone urgent. Time is not on your side. Others are searching for the fragments too. If they succeed, the consequences will be catastrophic. With little choice but to trust Zinara's guidance, Leora set course for the coordinates provided by the artifact, a desolate planet orbiting a dying sun. Chapter 7. Ruins of the Etherians. The planet was barren, its surface scarred by eons of decay. Jagged mountains loomed in the distance, and rivers of molten lava carved paths through the cracked terrain. As they landed, the crew discovered the remnants of an ancient civilization, the Etherians. Monolithic structures stood like silent sentinels, their surfaces etched with intricate carvings that glowed faintly under the dim sunlight. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered Lieutenant Mara, clutching her weapon tightly. Kale, on the other hand, was enthralled. He wandered among the ruins, deciphering symbols and muttering to himself. Remarkable. These inscriptions describe the creation of the invincible crown. It was forged not just as a weapon, but as a prison. "A prison for what?" Leora asked, her voice tinged with unease. Before Kale could answer, the ground trembled violently. From the shadows emerged massive mechanical constructs, guardians left behind by the Etherians. Their metallic forms gleamed menacingly as they advanced toward the intruders. "Looks like we've overstayed our welcome," Leora said grimly, drawing her blaster. "Kyle, find that fragment fast!" The team fought valiantly against the relentless guardians, using every trick in their arsenal to hold them off. Meanwhile, Kale worked frantically to unlock the mechanism guarding the second fragment. Just as the constructs closed in, he succeeded. The artifact flared brightly, disabling the machines and revealing the fragment nestled within a crystalline chamber. As Leora secured the fragment, Zinara spoke again. "Well done. But know this. Each step brings us closer to awakening the entity, imprisoned within the crown." Chapter 8. Shadows in the Void. Their next destination took them to the edge of a black hole, where gravity warped space into surreal shapes. Here, floating amidst the cosmic chaos, was a derelict spaceship, a relic from a forgotten era. Its hull was scorched and battered, but faint lights flickered inside, suggesting it still held power. Boarding the vessel felt like stepping into a ghost story. The air was stale, and the corridors were littered with skeletal remains. Holographic logs revealed that the ship belonged to explorers who had stumbled upon the third fragment centuries ago. They had tried to harness its power, only to be consumed by madness and despair. "This doesn't bode well," Lieutenant Mara remarked, her voice trembling slightly. Despite the ominous atmosphere, Kyle pressed on, driven by his insatiable curiosity. In the ship's core, they found the fragment encased in a stasis field, but breaking the field triggered a security protocol, releasing swarms of nanobots programmed to eliminate intruders. "We need to move," Leora shouted, firing her blaster at the advancing swarm. The crew scrambled to disable the nanobots while Kale worked to extract the fragment. Finally, with seconds to spare, he succeeded, and the swarm collapsed into inert dust. As they fled the crumbling ship, Zinara warned, "The entity grows stronger. Each fragment awakens more of its consciousness. Be cautious, Captain, you tread dangerous ground." Chapter 9. Midpoint twistback aboard their vessel, the crew examined the 3 fragments they had collected so far. When combined, they formed a partial map leading to the remaining pieces. But as Kale analyzed the data, he uncovered something chilling. The invincible crown wasn't designed to destroy enemies, he explained, his voice grave. It was built to contain an ancient being, a godlike entity once revered by the Etherians. Over time, corruption turned it malevolent, forcing them to imprison it within the crown. Leora stared at him, disbelief warring with dread. "So we're not collecting a weapon, we're rebuilding a cage?" "Yes," Zinara confirmed. "And if the entity escapes, it will wreak havoc on the galaxy." The revelation weighed heavily on everyone. For the first time, doubt crept into Leora's resolve. Was completing the crown worth the risk? Or should they destroy what they had gathered and abandon the mission? Chapter 10. Pursuit by the Eclipse Syndicate. Before they could decide, trouble arrived in the form of the Eclipse Syndicate. The shadowy organization had tracked them down, determined to claim the fragments for themselves. Their flagship, a monstrous vessel bristling with weapons, emerged from hyperspace, blocking the crew's path. A holographic message appeared on the view screen. The face of Syndicate leader Veyron Kane filled the screen, his cold smile sending shivers down their spines. "Surrender the artifacts, Captain Vane, or face annihilation." Leora refused to back down. "We'll never hand them over to scum like you." The ensuing battle was fierce and chaotic. Outgunned and outnumbered, Leora's crew fought desperately to survive. With no other options, she activated the partially assembled crown. Energy surged through the ship, creating a shockwave that crippled the Syndicate fleet. But the victory came at a cost. The activation destabilized nearby space, causing rifts to open and debris to rain down on both sides. As the Syndicate retreated, Zenara issued a dire warning. "The entity is stirring. You must hurry, Captain. Time is running out." Chapter 11. Sacrifices along the way. With the Syndicate temporarily defeated, the crew regrouped to plan their next move, but tensions ran high. Some argued that continuing the mission was too dangerous, while others believed they had no choice but to see it through. Amid the debate, Kale made a decision. "I'll stay behind," he announced quietly. "When we reach the final fragment, someone needs to ensure the crown is completed properly, even if it means making the ultimate sacrifice." Leora looked at him, torn between admiration and sorrow. "Are you sure about this?" Kyle nodded. "Someone has to bear the burden. Let it be me." Though reluctant, Leora accepted his choice. Together they prepared for the final leg of their journey, knowing that whatever awaited them would test their courage and their humanity to the limit. The final fragment's location was unlike anything the crew had encountered before, a ruined fortress floating in the endless void between galaxies. It was a place where time and space seemed to bend unnaturally, a silent graveyard of forgotten civilizations. As their ship approached, the artifact pulsed with an intensity that made Leora's chest tighten. "This is it," Zenara said, her voice echoing in Leora's mind. "The last piece of the crown lies within. But beware. The entity grows restless." Leora glanced at her crew, each face etched with exhaustion and determination. They had come so far, faced unimaginable dangers, and now stood on the brink of completing the invincible crown, or destroying it forever. She clenched her fists, resolve hardening within her. "Let's finish this," she said firmly. As they entered the fortress, the air grew colder, heavier, as if the weight of countless millennia pressed down upon them. The walls were covered in ancient runes, glowing faintly as though alive. Holographic projections flickered to life, showing glimpses of the Ethereans' past, their rise, their fall, and the creation of the crown. Dr. Cale Arden walked among the ruins, his eyes wide, with wonder and sorrow. "This place and it's a tomb," he whispered. "A warning." "What kind of warning?" Lieutenant Mara asked, her voice trembling. Kyle paused, his gaze distant. "That even gods can fall, that power unchecked corrupts everything it touches." Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled violently. From the shadows emerged towering constructs, guardians of the fortress, their metallic forms crackling with energy. They moved with purpose, blocking the path forward. "Weapons ready!" Leora barked, raising her blaster. The crew fought fiercely, dodging blasts and returning fire. Each step forward was earned through blood and sweat, but they pushed onward, driven by the knowledge that failure was not an option. Finally, they reached the heart of the fortress, a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures that hummed with raw energy. At its center floated the final fragment, encased in a shimmering stasis field. Chapter 13. The entity awakens. As Cal worked to disable the stasis field, Zainara's voice grew more urgent. "Hurry, Captain. The entity senses us. It knows we are here." Suddenly, the chamber shook violently. The crystals shattered one by one, releasing waves of dark energy that coalesced into a swirling mass in the air. A deep, resonant voice filled the room, cold and menacing. "You dare disturb my prison?" Leora stepped forward, her voice steady, despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Who or what are you?" "I am Arendor," the voice replied. "Once a ruler of balance, now a prisoner of my own corruption. You seek to restore the crown, to either free me or destroy me. Choose wisely, for your decision will shape the fate of all existence." Kale turned to Leora, his expression grim. "If we complete the crown, we risk unleashing him. But if we destroy it, we lose any chance of redemption. For him, and perhaps for the galaxy." Leora hesitated, the weight of the choice crushing her. She looked at her crew, their faces reflecting her own turmoil. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about responsibility. "We have to try," she said finally. "Zinara, guide us." Chapter 14. Sacrifice and Redemption. With the final fragment secured, Kyle initiated the assembly process. The fragments fused together, forming the complete invincible crown. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly light radiating both beauty and menace. The entity, Arendor, began to materialize, his form shifting between human-like and something far greater, incomprehensible. "No!" Veyron Kane's voice boomed through the chamber. The Eclipse Syndicate had arrived, storming the fortress with overwhelming force. Their leader stood at the entrance, flanked by armed mercenaries. "Hand over the crown," Kane demanded, his eyes gleaming with greed. "Or die trying to keep it." Leora raised her weapon, rallying her crew. "Not today." The battle erupted in chaos. Blaster fire lit up the chamber as the crew fought valiantly against the Syndicate. Meanwhile, Kale remained focused on the crown, channeling its energy to stabilize Arendor's awakening. "I can hold him back," Zinara declared. "But I need more time." Kyle nodded, understanding what needed to be done. He activated the fortress's self-destruct sequence, ensuring that no one else could claim the crown. "Go," he shouted to Leora. "I'll stay and make sure this ends right." Leora hesitated, torn between duty and loyalty. But Kale's resolve was unshakable. Reluctantly, she led her crew toward the exit, leaving Kale behind. As they escaped, the fortress began to collapse around them. Behind them, Kale stood alone, his hands raised as he channeled the crown's power. Arendor's form solidified, his eyes meeting Kale's with a mix of anger and gratitude. "You would sacrifice yourself for balance?" Arendor asked, his voice softer now. "For hope," Kale replied. "For redemption." With a final surge of energy, the crown merged, fully with Arendor, its light enveloping him. For a moment the entity was still, then vanished into the cosmos, leaving behind a sense of calm and renewal. Chapter 15. A new dawn. The crew barely made it out before the fortress exploded, sending shockwaves rippling through the void. Exhausted but alive, they watched as the debris faded into the distance. Leora stared at the empty space where the fortress had been, her thoughts heavy with loss and reflection. Kale's sacrifice weighed heavily on her, but she knew it hadn't been in vain. Whatever Arendor had become, his presence felt different now, not malevolent but balanced. Back on their ship, the crew gathered in silence. No words were needed. They had shared something profound, something that bound them together forever. Months later, Leora sat in her quarters, penning her memoirs. She wrote of their journey, of the fragments they had found, and of the choices they had made. She reflected on how the line between myth and reality had blurred during their quest, and how some stories, no matter how fantastical, held truths worth remembering. As she closed the book, she gazed out the viewport at the stars. The galaxy was still scarred, still fractured, but there was hope, and sometimes that was enough.